Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the service and support track. Up next, we have Jonathan, who is an SRE manager from VMware, talking about how they were able to scale their service desk. And just a quick fun fact about Jonathan. So his dream job would be to work for SpaceX and land a rocket, which is pretty cool. And his favorite food is pizza, which is mine too, and probably everyone else in the room, because pizza is the best. So everybody, welcome Jonathan to the stage.
Thanks, Molly. All right, thanks. First of all, welcome everyone, and thank you for attending my session today. I know it's towards the end of the day and towards the end of the summit, so I really appreciate everyone coming out and attending and listening to what I have to say, which hopefully will be good for everybody here in the room. So yes, this is about Service Desk. We've had some great presentations already in Summit. There was a great one yesterday that I attended from Bose. That was very in-depth about some really cool, great areas of a little bit more under the covers of things you should be doing or you could do in terms of tweaking your Service Desk implementation. So my deck here today is going to be more about the strategy, how to go about implementing Service Desk, some real big gotchas, and the best way of going about that across your organization. I do get fairly technical in some of the areas, so it is more high level, but it's also give you a good understanding across the board. There's a lot to talk about Service Desk, so I could be up here for 4 hours and I still wouldn't have enough time. So we're going to just get started on my agenda here. So first, I'm going to go through a couple areas. It's finding a journey, one-upping your business, how you can successfully enable your customers, lessons that we learned, and a lot of key takeaways that you can leave here with to implement the product. So it's I want to always start off with a way that you should hopefully feel when you leave here at Summit, and not necessarily just my presentation, but hopefully when you leave Summit, is the guy here has the water bottle and the shirt around his neck, and he's pumped up and he's ready to go implement an Atlassian product, and hopefully it's Service Desk, and hopefully we can provide you enough energy to go and do that and feel as good as this guy and not the other guy is crying on the other guy's shoulder here. I really don't want to be that guy. So a little bit about me. I work for VMware. I've been part of VMware for 8 years now. Been in various different organizations across the company, from Cloud Management Business Unit, which we shipped and was a product owner for the vRealize Operations product. You might have seen me present at VMworld a couple times, which turned out to be our first billion-dollar product that we shipped. Today it's still very, very successful in the market from an operations standpoint. And today I'm now responsible for the SaaS operations strategy at VMware. And this is really about our VMware's transformation from an on-prem company to a services-based company. I'm going to talk about that a little bit here in a moment. Our number one customer or user of Service Desk in production is our VMC on AWS service. And this is our SDC service that is on top of AWS, major strategic partnership that we made. And they are our number one customer who uses Service Desk from incident management, change management, problem management, and support process and support flows. I have a worldwide SRE team. We're 24/7 on call. I'm on call right now. Molly has my phone. If it pager duty goes off, I'm off the stage. So that is for real. We are build and operate model. We ship services, we run services, and we're responsible for making sure they're production. They're facing our billion-dollar customers every day. So it's very important that we treat Service Desk as that pivotal piece in there, and we treat that the same way. I'm also responsible for some other things, obviously not just Service Desk in our operational model. Responsible for all of our operational frameworks and our OSS service catalog. So if you're curious about the VMware Cloud Services portfolio overall, VMware has been in a pivotal transition to our cloud services, and mentioned in this slide here, obviously VMware Cloud and AWS, which I mentioned already, which is our vSphere-based SDDC. But we have a lot of other services. Every one of these services you see on this slide uses Service Desk. This covers about 3,000 developers that are working on SaaS services across VMware, worldwide organizations, I should say. And we have some most recent announcements from last week. One of the ones I want to highlight is VMware Kubernetes Engine. We're one of the forefront leaders, partnered very closely with Google on the Kubernetes platform and a Kubernetes service. It's very exciting. It's coming out of our cloud native apps business unit out of Seattle. So lots of exciting services here. We also have our Wavefront product. One of the cool things about Wavefront here, a high performance metric ingestion platform. We've integrated this with Service Desk from an alert management and incident management process. You can scan the QR code there and take a look at some of those services, sign up for them, and try them out. Welcome you. A little bit about VMC. We're across 5 global regions, 15 availability zones. This is some of the highlights from last week at VMworld in Las Vegas. There's a VMworld here in Barcelona. I believe some of you probably have attended that or will be attending. And we have a lot of major announcements there in terms of improving our rollout of SDDCs. It's fully automated. It's a fully container-based architecture. It's a purely service-based architecture running all of our vSphere components and across the SDDC from vSAN, NSX, ESX, and vSphere. So it's a next-gen platform. We're really excited about it. And I wanted to mention it today because they are my chief customer of Service Desk, and we support them every day in production. So SRE is the team that we run, and it's a team that is at the site level of VMware. And for a successful site reliability engineering team, you have to make good decisions. And to make good decisions, you have to have good data. And you have to have a single place, a single source of truth for that data. And we started very early on with Atlassian in the journey. We had a big bet. We said, listen, Atlassian really understands the DevOps culture, understands how developers and teams are going to work in the next generation of building software and shipping software. And this was well before the days of CI/CD and containers and Docker and shipping software every hour, right? In VMC, we ship every day. We're literally shipping production code every single day. Automated change approvals, automated change processes, while all at the same time being compliant with your SOC Type 2 and GovCloud and FedRAMP and all these other great certifications that come with it. As we went along this journey, about 2 years ago, we said, listen, we need an ITSM, we need a Service Desk platform that's going to grow with our teams, and most importantly, grow with us as we start to mature in this new world. I consume Service Desk from essentially a team inside VMware that I consider my platform as a service team, and that's run by Koum and Prafula. And they had a presentation earlier today about how they built and scaled out my Service Desk platform for me based on my requirements and my SLAs. A great presentation if you want to learn a little bit more about the architecture of the low-level design of how we got high availability, disaster recovery, and replication. But what I want to talk to you about today is how did we get from nothing to this? And I think out of everything in my slides, if you're still here, thank you. This is probably the most important slide. A lot of cameras are up, and that's pretty good. This is our operational framework. It's extremely pivotal. There's obviously lots of details that are underneath these covers here and the boxes, but at the high level, this is how we operate our incident management platform. And this incident management platform, if you notice, Jira Service Desk is in the middle, right? Because it's the center source of truth for everything we do, right? And within this, if you remember from the keynote yesterday, when we talked about the how Jira and JSD sits right in the middle of incident management, we actually are replicating and doing the exact same thing. And what you see on this slide is pivotal to all of our inbound incidents, from alerting tools, from event management, from other SaaS services that we use, from monitoring tools, to notifications. How do we communicate with the business, right? A big portion of the challenge we have in incident management, you can build an awesome service, your service is going to fail, right? AWS is going to break. They tell you we're going to break, right? One of the things that, as we started learning in VMware very quickly, is that as you build services, you need to build services expecting to fail over. You will have a DR, because it's not DR, you're going to have a failover. You're going to go to another region. If you're active-active or active-passive, right, your architectures are going to be tested every day whether it can be something as simple as DNS failure, which we know never happens, right? Something that we think would have matured enough by now. But all these different fundamental concepts of running a service and consumers are coming in and giving you money to run 24/7 and always be highly available relies on an incident management platform that's more than just putting Service Desk in. It's about integrating everything. And we really built our incident management platform about integrations. That's what my team actually owns. We own, from an SRE standpoint, all these integrations that make all of these things work. Now, we may not own Slack, right? But we need to operationalize Slack. You open up Slack and you open up and there's 75 channels. Maybe in a small organization, in ours, we have 14,000 channels. So how do you operationalize that? Not here talking about Slack, but in Jira Service Desk, the same thing, right? You have queues, you have multiple projects, you have workflows, you have incident management. So I'm going to talk to you today about how you can keep that all under control and have a good incident management process and really stay focused so you can deliver what we have here. This was not delivered day one, by the way, right? This is 2 years of work that we've ended up here with a solution that, by the way, is continuously changing. Right? We've now have change management, we have problem management, we have a complete life cycle, we have a backlog of stuff to do a mile long, right? So it's never done, it's never over. So just a quick poll, how many in here are using JSD already? Wow, that's awesome. So a lot more than I expected. Great, so hopefully this rings a bell. So one of the big foundational components of VMware strategy is solving operational problems with software, but to solve operational problems with software, you have to have the tools and processes well defined. And this is one of the big things that we find people fall over very, very quickly on, is that they don't have a well-defined business processes, and they just go and implement the tool, right? You can't do one without the other. We saw this happen very quickly in our initial testing and POCs that we were doing. So we paused and we went back and said, listen, we have a platform. Let's get our business strategy together. Let's get our operational strategy together. We know the boundaries. We know the frameworks. Let's make this all work. And that's a pivotal to everything we do in VMware, by the way. So the first thing is the journey. Define a minimal viable service. This is a very big component to how we operationalize and got to that nirvana stage of having that amazing integrations and arrows going all over the place that's fully automated. Right? We didn't just turn that on, went out there and handed it to all of our customers across 5,000 engineers and said, go use this. You're never going to be successful. It's about introducing something, introducing change to the human being and to a human on the other side that's going to be receiving that, and so they understand what they need to do and how they need to operate. This starts with defining your business logic, defining SLAs, and your minimal viable service overall. What are you trying to achieve in an achievable time frame? Right? It's not about what you need to do next year. It's about what you need to do right now in the next three weeks, in the next month. Define your cycle that works for your business. SLAs are very important. We found very, very quickly that SLAs are the first thing everybody wants an SLA. They want an SLA on everything. How long it took to open, how long it take to close. They want to know SLAs on how long the ticket sat there with someone staring at the screen. Okay? We found very quickly that the SLAs, you need to define them, you stick to them, and you let your leadership team define when it's right to change them. And sometimes that takes working with them, explaining to them about the impact of changing an SLA. Well, if we change an SLA, it's going to alert 30 people that now they have to solve that incident in 4 hours versus 14 hours or 12 hours or whatever. Right? So SLAs are very important. Issue types, customer request types. Now getting into a little bit more around the Jira, around the Service Desk stuff, areas. Issue types are really important, right? Having too many issue types, there's just too many customer request types. Making sure you have the right balance, right? Customer request types can link to different issue types. Making sure you have the right connection there, right? Not creating too many for too many different things. Trying to reuse them where you can. And workflows. First thing to start, understand your business flows. Start with a basic workflow and work from there. Iterate, iterate, iterate. Very, very important. So a little bit about the journey. Where do you start? So a lot of these people already in this room put your hand up about, you're already using JSD, but I want to mention, because this is something that I felt that was really cool that we started on a few months ago, that was actually after we did our implementation, was running, how do I run and test JSD and all these new releases that keep coming out. I don't want to download a VM. I don't want to own this big virtual machine on my laptop or stand up this infrastructure to test things. So we started using the container version of JSD. This is not officially supported by Atlassian, by the way. There's an individual out here out on Docker Hub. His name is Captain Hank. I've actually met him once. And he has been shipping all of the Atlassian products as a container. Bitbucket, Fluence, JSD, Jira Core, Jira Software, the whole suite out there. You still need a license, obviously. You can get a trial license and use it. But one of the cool things about this is that you can stand it up really quickly and find out if it's going to work for you. It's also a great way to fire up. You don't need to have any dependencies. You don't need anything else. Just fire it up, install an add-on, test it out, see how it works. So this is how we did a lot of our initial development work and how we do a lot of our testing. Work with the TAM and community, and build, break, and do again, right? Tear it down, start over. In your dev environment, we started off early on in a very simple pipeline with staging and production. We've now matured to a much broader pipeline of dev, stage, and prod, and we have pre-tests and pre-flight environments that we test in before we make major changes, and now we're getting to the point where we're automating all the configuration management. So a little bit more about the journey itself. Think tactically. Some of the challenges, some of the loopholes that people can fall into when they go to implement JSD very quickly is, go out and they turn on all these switches, they make all these different projects, and they make 100 different request types, and it turns out like no one knows what I'm even doing anymore, right? No one even knows how to go and open an incident. So single project versus multiple projects. It's another one, right? Single project is a big one versus having multiple projects across your JSD instance. Obviously, sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. What we do is we recommend trying to work on a single project where the business lines up with the value that we're trying to deliver. Primary request types can be reusable and generic. I mentioned this before. We found a lot of the times we were creating too many request types where we could have had single request types and used like dynamic forms to fill in the gaps, right, and make it faster time to value to our customer. Right? Less searching, less going to the customer portal, trying to find out where something is. So grow organically. This was a big one. I think it was mentioned in a couple of the other presentations also. Start with teams that can be champions in your organization. I was talking to an individual yesterday who said he deployed JSD, nobody used it. I said, well, did you work with anybody? Were they a champion? He said, well, I couldn't really find anybody. So one of the challenges is in large organizations, especially of our size, is finding organic growth, right? You can't always be in front of every single team, especially across the world, and say you need to go and use a product, right? You need to be in front of it all the time, right? Or you need to use this, or go to this Confluence page and read about it. You need to find your champions in your organization. The second piece was a self-service. We found that you put anything in front of a human being or in front of a user, and you need to give them a manual to use it, you failed, right? You can pick up a phone and use it. You pick up an iPhone, an Android, you can use it, right? You can't give someone a product and expect them to read a manual, how to use it, right? It needs to be self-service. So self-service drives into a common request type framework. If you do things 20 different ways on the customer portal, your user is going to be confused. Use feedback sessions to gather insight. I talk about this a little later on also, but feedback sessions are a great way, especially as you start to scale out the use of the product, to understand from your users what they feel, what is working for them, what's not. So I talked a little bit earlier about what's good in terms of ease of use. And one of the examples I used was a workflow. And workflows are probably one of the biggest areas our leadership group fell into traps on, because, and this was simply because you never know where an issue is. It's always about the status. It's always about the state of the issue, right? So we started off very early on the good one on the left. This is actually real, not the one on the right, or if it's reversed, I think it's the right side. The not recommended is just an example. Don't do that. There's 30 different states. The thing to think about is that you have to explain or build SLAs on every state that you have in an incident. whether it's customer success or your support organization or your engineering organization, they're going to want SLAs on every one of these states. They're going to want to know where they are. They're going to want to know who's working on them. Why are they in that state for so long? And how do I get somebody to look at that ticket right now, no matter what state it's in? So it's really important that you have a really good workflow that makes sense to your engineering team, especially if you're, obviously in software development or different organizations, it can be different. But at the end of the day, make sure you have a workflow that makes sense to your teams that are consuming the product. The customer portal, we have a statement in VMware, and it's used quite around, well around the U.S. and some other areas, but keep it stupid simple, KISS, right? If I can't go out there and do it under 30 seconds, I failed. If it takes me longer than 30 seconds to find something to open, find an issue, or find a support ticket, I failed. Okay? And that includes opening it, submitting it, everything, end to end, 30 seconds. More, you're lost. So we do 30 seconds or less. Really important, search box is your friend. We actually found, we did a little study to see how many users actually go out and go and click to find the right request type. We found that almost 80% of our users were doing just that. You would think that there's this big search box, type in what you're looking for, but it wasn't apparent because people were used to going to Google and typing in something and seeing this long list and not really sure what it is. I had to go still hunt and peck, so I'm just going to go hunt and peck anyway. So what we found out was we had to do we took a little time to explain to users, hey, if you type, there's actually machine learning and it's based on you as a user. The more you go there, the more it's going to learn what you're looking for. And this is for real. There is a machine learning algorithm built into the JSD portal, and it is per user. One of the things that we had from one user is, well, I went to the portal, I'm seeing this. Another one said, I went to this portal, I see this. I said, yeah, it's because you've been there 30 times and he's been there once. So there is definitely a lot of benefit to having a really easy-to-use customer portal. Drive automation. So we found really quickly also is the asking the user for too many things and filling too many fields in is a gap, right? You don't have the data, you don't know what to do with the ticket. But if you ask them, they don't fill it in anyway. Or if you have a required field, it doesn't make sense for another person because they don't know what they should select. So then you have bad data. You want good data. You want to know what you're going to do with your incidents. So make sure that the questions you're asking can get you to the point where you can automate that, right? One of the examples we did was we pulled data in from our LDAP, from our LDAP attributes, and enrich a ticket when it comes into Service Desk. That was really important because we want to know like the business unit and cost center that users are part of. 99.9% of our users have no idea what cost center they're in. So why should we ask them, right? Let's just tell you what it is. So these are a couple examples of a good portal versus a bad portal. I've seen both of these. The one on the left is actually ours. And we have our onboarding all comes in through the customer portal, our new service incidents and our suspension cancellation, very big part of our SaaS service model, making sure we can suspend a customer or cancel a customer. There was a big incident at Google a few months ago about this, that they couldn't terminate somebody. In SaaS, it's a big problem. And that's a really important part of your fraud and incident management processes. On the right-hand side, I have no idea what to even click on. I don't even know where to go, right? You don't want that. You want to be able to have very, very quick time to value. One up the business. So you now have Service Desk deployed, you have your request types, you have people using the tool, but now your leadership is coming to you and saying, listen, we want this stuff to happen faster, right? I want to do more integrations. I want to really bring more data into the system, right? So we opted to go, there's two paths. We had the basic automation that's built into JSD, and we have automation for Jira, which is an add-on. And we started for the first 6 months using the native integration, which is a great place to start, and that's why I strongly recommend everyone doing as much as they can inside the product. And then we said, well, listen, we're getting much more advanced, and we need a lot more, right? We need the ability to do much more complex flows and complications of the data, enriching the data, taking in webhooks and parsing them using regex and applying that data to different fields, all on the fly in real time. You know, hundreds of these incidents flowing in. Sometimes they're alert-based, right? So we need something that can consume that data and get it in front of our engineers, already enriched, already automated, assigned to the right team, assigned to the right group of people, right? We don't ever assign to a single person, we assign to a team. And we also need to automate the notifications. We need to send them to Slack, to the specific channels. We need to direct message those people, all at the same time, all happening within milliseconds. So we started working with the Automation for Jira plugin. We have a great relationship with the development team there, and they helped us add and fill in a couple gaps that we had in terms of a lot of the enrichment and assignment challenges we had in Jira itself. Great plugin for more of the advanced functionalities. These are some of the examples that we use this more advanced pathway for. Adding comments, automatically responding to customer requests, reopening issues on comments based on reopen triggers, SLA breaches, and obviously map date and text functionality, regex and all that. Parse data streams and so forth across fields. So on the left-hand side, we have the native Service Desk automation. Again, we actually do still use this for some functionalities, and it's still a very, very powerful starting point for almost majority of customers. But as you get more advanced, the image on the right is actually a screenshot of only a partial amount of rules we have in a single project. We're up to about 90 rules in a single project for all of our incident management. That's everything from notifications to processing to assignments to reopening tickets to constant monitoring to webhook integrations, inbound and outbound. So it's absolutely crucial. We try to automate, and we're now at the point where we've automated about 85% of every function that's in the Service Desk. We actually do not have very much human interaction to the point of it getting to the right team. And we're continuously pushing that threshold. We hope to cross 90% very shortly. So enabling your customers. This is the next area that was really big, right? How do you get it in front of customers so they understand how to use it and use the product? Obviously, dog fooding is a big one. It was mentioned in an earlier presentation. I was really surprised how many people don't actually dog food in my colleague's presentation this morning. Also, how are you going to handle your authentication design? Right? Customer portal access is one of the biggest ones. It was mentioned yesterday in the Bose presentation on JSD also, and I like that Josh mentioned that the customer portal should be anonymized. Anyone in your company should be able to get to it, access it, and submit a ticket. Now, they may have submitted it in the wrong system, or they don't know where to go, or they went to JSD and it should have been something else. But at the end of the day, you got a ticket into the system, and someone has to do something, right? And that also helps your adoption and growth. We found a lot of the times tickets would get into our system, right, into our JSD, and maybe it should have went to an IT team that was using email or something. And then they started to say, hey, listen, we want to use JSD too because everyone's going to your portal. Before you knew it, we had this organic growth, and we're seeing that right now. We're actually experiencing that in real time. Record training sessions, video sessions for easier distribution. Create steering committees and Slack channel feedback. So I mentioned before about how do you get feedback. We have a lot of steering committee meetings. We go to each individual business unit, get their feedback. We do this once a month. We try to keep it 30 minutes. You can't I always say you can't have a meeting more than 30 minutes. You're doing something wrong. So 30 minutes feedback, tell me what the problems are, what your challenges are, we'll get back to you. Okay. Slack channel integration is very big. We have a very impressive Slack channel design. We're on the Slack Enterprise Grid, but we have a Slack channel framework. So when teams have questions, they know where to go. We have a construct called assist channels, and it's actually organically grown also in VMware. If you need help with Service Desk, you go to Service Desk Assist. If you need assistance with VMC, you go to VMC Assist. Very, very easy for users who are brand new to the company, know where to go to get help. Knowledge base, I'll touch on this real quick. This was a big implementation. It ties to a project per Confluence workspace, but this was a big help for us. The knowledge base was something that we're continuously redefining and pushing the boundaries on. I unfortunately couldn't take a screenshot of ours due to intellectual property, but this is just a screenshot of a demo environment of knowledge bases across the environment help your users, right? So as they're typing, how do I get access to PagerDuty? They know where to go, and they can go read a knowledge base article how to access it. We also see this very helpful in our VMC world, where users are having a problem with an SDDC. There's already been thousands of KBs on VMware KB, right? I'm sure some of you have been out there. Why do we need to open an incident? Go there, read the KB. If it doesn't work, come back and open an incident. Templated service desk projects. This is another one that we've been working on now, is how to have JSD projects that are templated for users to try out, to go out into a dev environment. We now have a process where we hand off environments to our customers to try out what they may need, or what they feel will work for them, and they come back to us and they review with us what will work. And we try to figure out how to fit that into our operational framework where it deems necessary. But this was a big feature for us. And the biggest one was integrations and extensions. I think this is when you look at that operational framework slide, the customer experience really is core around your integrations and extensions. This image here is a little bit on the older side, but if you remember the slide I had before, we connect and integrate to so many different services. And I think that is really where you can also lose control, and you can also gain a lot of control, right? Gain a lot of capabilities in terms of visibility to your teams. For example, if you send an integration to every single tool you have in your ecosystem, before you know it, no one's looking at anything, right? So we keep a very tight documentation in terms of what is going where, who requested it, where in JSD. So we know who requested integration, added to PagerDuty or added to Slack, because those never get deleted, right? And so we have a clear documentation of how to use these tools and how to use these integrations. One of the big ones was focus on business time to value. One of the biggest business requirements we had was integrating with Salesforce. Our Salesforce organization is based on what we call GSS, it's our global support organization. It's 6,000 or so employees around the world that support on-prem and SaaS. And listen, they're never going to leave Salesforce. There's a reason why it's there. And we're not trying to offset them anyway. And Salesforce is a very big portion of that business, of our product and our strategy and in our company. And nor should it be something we want to try doing. It meant we need to integrate, right? There's times where you should integrate. There's times where you should try to do other tactics. But in this case, we integrated. And Salesforce integration was really crucial, because now you're bringing in a whole other portion of your business that's outside of your engineering teams that are now going to integrate with an R&D tool around the world. Right? Faced a lot of challenges, but we did it. And we did it by taking it piece by piece. We first started with the core teams, VMC and AWS. We worked with the GSS groups, and we allowed them to organically grow across across that team as they started to introduce more support teams and support members into the group. Extensions, I'll talk about a couple here in a moment. We don't use an enormous amount of extensions. We do have quite a few plugins that we use. The Divinity extension for JSD was a big focus for us. We needed to expand more functionality around dynamic forms, which we'll talk in a moment. Rich filters, users wanted more advanced dashboarding. Again, these are some of the plugins that we use. Again, this is actually almost all of them. We don't use a lot. We use a lot of the native functionality in JSD, as much as we possibly can. These, I think, are the ones that really got us to the point where they are solid, right? These are plugins that are what I could say are at the enterprise level. We really push really hard on the vendors. We've really built a good partnership with them. They understand what we're trying to do, right? The level of their code has to meet our requirements, right? It really needs to be production ready. We're not just going out to the marketplace, downloading anything we see out there and hoping that it works. Right? We have a commitment to our customers and our users that what we install and what we select and what we use, just like if we were to write it ourselves, can meet our requirements. So we have CodeBarrel, which I mentioned here, Divinity Extension, JSU, Valentis Enfeed, and PagerDuty. We worked very closely with PagerDuty on their integration from JSD into PagerDuty service. We are a PagerDuty customer, and we're very reliant on notifying on-call engineers. So this was a big integration. And the JSD for extension for Divinity was a big a big area for us, which I'll mention here. This is the main area we use is the dynamic forms. And the PagerDuty integration here where it's completely native right inside of an incident. And we've actually built rule sets inside of PagerDuty that get synced down to JSD that allow you to build complex rule sets in a rules engine and actually push up an incident to the PagerDuty service to the right endpoint to call the right on-call team. So lessons learned. We started really quickly with reference architectures. I think we were 2 years ago one of the earlier teams to onboard into JSD. So there wasn't really a whole lot out there in terms of reference architectures, but we moved really quickly, working with our colleagues who were moving very quickly on Jira and our platform. Again, like I mentioned, they had a great presentation this morning on the actual platform and the scale out and the high availability and moving to data center edition from the previous single node that we had. So we moved very, very quickly across those environments to build a reference architecture internally and working with Atlassian and our TAM community. Build MVS solutions, align your business, define your SLAs. Right? Some of the most crucial pieces is defining your SLA. Across your incidents, your requests, your access requests, no matter what they are. Because by the way, when the SOC or the security operations team comes and asks you why wasn't this security incident reviewed, you better the heck have an SLA and know what it was, why it breached, and who didn't look at it. Right? Hold weekly feedback sessions for your users. Now, switch in here quickly to some our key takeaways. So again, MVS. You don't need to deliver every single thing out the door to your users, right? Think of JSD as your first step, and then continuously add these extensions and the functionality as your users need it, right? The first thing I say is try to do with what you have before you go out there and just start to try to add more functionality before you're ready to support it, right? Because at the end of the day, everything you add, someone needs to support, right? And operationalize. Make data-driven decisions. Focus on issues submitted, and drive automation from those. So we didn't just go out and create 50, 90, 100 automation rules for the heck of it, right? We looked at the data, we looked at the issues that were being created, we looked at the errors that were happening, right? We had a lot of mistakes. We had incidents that were coming in and they were missing the right teams. Well, why did that happen? Was it training? Was it communication? Was it the system? Was it our design? Instead, what we did is we took all those questions and we looked at the data. Well, we looked at the all comments section, the all activity of an issue, see where it went, who reassigned it, why did it go to this team, why did it trigger this automation rule, why didn't it go to PagerDuty. And we learned a lot about how to keep it really narrow, really focused, and really accurate on every rule that we have in place. Prioritize backlog. I mentioned earlier, we have a list a mile long of things to do. You can't do everything. This is one of the biggest things that we're all here about, right? Prioritization. It's a tough thing to learn. Definitely look at, what makes most sense for your business, and you're going to have to say no sometimes. Don't jump on every marketplace app. I think this was a big one. Like I said to, I was speaking to another person yesterday. He said, I went and installed 30 apps. I said, well, why? Why'd you install 30? For what? What are you even going to do with all of them? Well, I thought we needed them. So you need to start by looking at what you require first to best understand what you need. Latest and greatest, we're on the enterprise release of JSD, of Jira. And we learned a lot from this experience. I think we were one of the early enterprise release customers. And we wanted stability and platform availability and a product and a version that we knew was solidified across other customers, right? We're not out there installing the latest and greatest version in production, right? Because we don't know what bugs they are. We don't want to be the ones finding them first out the door. Obviously, we want to mix that with features, right? We also want to make sure our users are getting what they need. So we've learned very quickly that latest and greatest isn't always the best thing to do. You should be aware of them, and you should be able to talk to your TAM and understand what's coming, and help understand when the next enterprise release will be, if that's what you're out there, if that's what you're looking to do. And that was a big part of where we landed in our operational framework and the version that we run. So final words, if you follow these steps, I really do feel that everyone in the room can definitely implement a really solid JSD deployment. We learned a lot in our implementation. That's why I came here to speak, right? And definitely could share tons of stories. And I really wanted to highlight on some of the areas that we fell on, right? And this is really if you go through this deck and listen to what I have to say, I think, and go and actually implement it, you could definitely be successful. And there's a lot of areas in JSD that you could fall over, in Jira and also in overall. But if you stay focused on what you need to deliver, you can be really successful with this product. Last thing I'll say before I go into questions, there was, I mentioned this earlier, Koum and Prafula, who are colleagues of mine in our CP organization, had a great scale talk this morning. I mentioned I consume the platform as a PaaS to me, and I offer it as a service in my catalog and as part of my operational framework. I depend on them. They have an SLA that they need to deliver to me in terms of availability, HADR. They talk a lot about how they achieve that in their presentation this morning, so if you can go back and download that recording, it's a great lessons learned. And of course, I'm available for any questions.
Thanks everyone so much. We're actually just out of time. People are probably waiting outside, so if you have questions for Jonathan, he'll take them right outside the door. And please rate this session in the app. It's super important for us. And then also, the last talk about Jira Service Desk today is a deep dive into automation rules, where they give you actual automation rules that you can implement. And that's going to be at 4:20 today in room 7, I believe. So thank you.